Hello everybody and welcome to Performance on Wheels. This is our Ford Bronco series. Here on Performance on Wheels we have an entire array of different Ford Bronco videos, from comparing a two-door to a four-door, the underside Sasquatch to non-Sasquatch, the Bronco Rodeo, which is an off-road experience provided by Bronco or Ford when you purchase a new one. Anything you could think of, we have it, is a two-door Bronco practical. Check out the link up in the corner where you can check out our entire playlist of Ford Bronco videos.
We are a father-son team that makes all sorts of videos about cars, trucks, everything we can get our hands on. But continue to join us, like and subscribe on the Bronco journey.
In today's video, we go ahead and unpack what it is like experiencing the Ford Bronco Rodeo. The Ford Bronco Rodeo is an off-road experience you get for free when you purchase a new Bronco from Ford. So there's multiple different locations across the US, and we went to one of them with the Ford Bronco Rodeo certificate we got from this Big Bend. Now, in the future, we are going to have a full unpacked experience going to the Bronco Rodeo because we have a second one from purchasing this here Wild Trek. Not only that, but in today's video, since we experienced that off-rodeo, we're going to go ahead and check out the undersides of both of these Broncos and check out how different the functionality works when they're actually going off-road.
We're going to start the video off by talking about the Bronco off-road experience. I always want to call it the Bronco off-rodeo for some reason. Maybe it's because I'm combining both words and it's easier, or whatever, so I might say that a couple times throughout the video. Be prepared for that.
So what's also kind of cool about us talking about the Bronco Off-Road Rodeo is this is not our first experience just straight going to an event provided by a manufacturer. So we have done this with the AMG Driving Academy, which is an on-road driving course. We did this with the Land Rover Defender, with the Land Rover Off-Road School. I believe that's what it was called, right? Something like that?
Yeah, just Land Rover
And then we
experience.
also have done some other stuff, like we went to the Radford Racing School, and we have gone to Dirtfish Rally School. So we have a lot of experience doing these automotive off-road journeys, and let's compare this to some of the other experiences that you're going to get as well, because you can also just walk in and pay for this event as well.
Not quite yet, and I will touch base on that. I'm sure that will change here in a little bit, but that is an excellent point to be brought up. We will end the video, just to make sure you stay around for that, kind of going under the underside. We put both of these up on our lift at home and just kind of look at the differences. Is there really a dramatic difference on the underside in the capability, or is there not? So those are some things that we unpack. So there are 4 different locations of the Bronco Off-Road Rodeo, and they start with New Hampshire, Las Vegas, Nevada, Moab, the off-road capital of America, I feel like. And the location that we went to, which is actually the flagship location, the first location, the biggest and baddest, we were told, which is outside of San Antonio, as well as Austin, Texas, in a place called Horseshoe Bay, which is an absolute beautiful town. The Horseshoe Bay Resort is worth staying at if you happen to go there. It's a luxurious resort. It's a cool town that has some awesome amenities. And the location where the Bronco Off-Road Rodeo is actually leased from the owner of that resort. I'm forgetting offhand. I feel like it's 400 acres or something like that. A lot of acreage. I think approximately 10 miles of trails that are there to experience. And not only the full-size Bronco, but if you bought a Bronco Sport, they also have those there. You drive what you bought type of thing. Not necessarily the trim, but you drive the vehicle that you brought, being the Sport versus the full-size. The experience is pretty gnarly. So they shuttled us in from the resort. We show up there in the morning. It's an all-day experience. Starts at like 8 in the morning, and we got picked up at like 6 o'clock at night. And I have to admit, this is right up there with the AMG Driving Academy as far as the presentation, the ambiance, the catering, everything was top-notch. We had...
Now, let's take that into account here for a minute.
Right.
We just compared Ford's Bronco School to AMG Driving Academy, which is putting Land Rover under Ford. Is that correct?
That is absolutely 100% correct. I would put Land Rover, after having these different experiences, kind of at the bottom of the actual experience. I'm not saying it was bad. I'm just saying some of these other experiences were that good.
Yep. And not only that, but you got a full day experience out of the deal, where the Land Rover thing was like 2 hours and you had to pay for more.
Yeah, and it wasn't only just a full day. Like, it's a presentation. You go to a building that was built built specific for this. They have different apparel you can buy, whether it's actual accessories or clothing or mugs. They have all sorts of stuff. It's a really nice building. It's like a ranch style.
Yeah, so Ford really put their time and effort into this.
Pretty well done.
But
that's an excellent point.
It's not actually from Ford.
No, it's a marketing company that owns it. They actually, Ford supplies them. They buy the Broncos. They said they had about over 100 at the San Antonio location when we were there, but the other locations have them too. So the marketing company buys the Broncos, but there's obviously some sort of connection between Ford and the marketing company. They aren't Ford employees that are the instructors or anything. Ford isn't necessarily a part of the experience. It's a completely different company, which I thought was interesting. I wasn't expecting to learn that.
Kind of curious how that works, being is that you buy a new Bronco and then you get to go there. Like, who pays them? I don't know.
Yeah, there's got to be some sort of connection, but they do an excellent job of representing the brand, of representing Ford, and they put on a heck of an experience. We had an amazing catered lunch, which was tacos and Mexican food in my experience. Great. And then we also had an amazing catered dinner, which was barbecue galore, and they even brought in a live acoustic act to play by the fire while we were eating. It was really well done.
Now let's talk about the actual experience itself, driving these things off-road.
The experience was also well done. They start pretty mild, where you just start to understand what the Bronco has to offer. You know, the example would be showing that hydraulic sway bar link disconnection on that Badlands model in action, which is pretty cool. Like you go against the competition, the Wrangler, which you have to be like on nice level ground. And then if you have a newer one, the electronic actuated sway bar disconnect may work, but having the fact that you are in a hydraulic sway bar disconnect in the Badlands, you can see that thing at full articulation and watch that wheel just drop.
Yeah, so basically how a sway bar disconnect works is it allows for more travel in the front end. So you go up on a rock, say you got one wheel up here and the other wheel's just kind of dangling in the air because it's obviously a solid front end. The sway bar disconnect drops that wheel down, so you now have more traction and you have both front wheels touching.
Yeah. So they do a really good job of just going through the basics, where you're kind of walking around with the vehicle and they're showing you the different tools on your hero pad, whether it is that sway bar disconnect or the electronic front or rear locking differential.
Now we should also, since we actually are talking about that, you know, it's kind of interesting that the Badlands is the only one with a sway bar disconnect, right? So that is not, trims aren't just luxury as you go up. So there's different segments of the trims of the Bronco. So the Wild Trek that we're standing here in front of is like the Baja trim.
Right.
Then the Badlands is like the rock crawling trim.
It's like if you're on bad land or something.
Yeah, and then the Everglades is, you know, for swamps, going through water, stuff like that. And then the Raptor Raptor is everything. It just does everything.
Right, yeah, and it's really cool. So back to the experience here, you walk around, they show you the different options, they show you the off-road cruise control, they go through all the different switches, and they have a different terrain to show you the capabilities of those switches. So that first couple hours, yeah, it's informative. Yeah, the instructors are great, personable people, so they keep it engaging. But the fun starts when you get behind the wheel and start to put that knowledge that you gained into action. And this is truly a pretty cool experience if you've never off-roaded before, because they're not just throwing you into a bunch of mild stuff. There are times when I saw us at, I think it was like 26 degree on the side and about the same going up. So we were in a position where we're looking up at the sky and all you're going by is the spotter telling you where to place those tires. They're talking you through the proper technique all throughout the day. They're putting you in some different courses or different obstacles that are allowing you to try out the different modes and functions in the Bronco.
And are all those a joke, or do they all do stuff?
They do stuff. You can actually see them in work. You can see, okay, so backing up here a second, they also tell you that like a Bronco like this little feller here, the Big Ben, that essentially has none of the goodies, right? It has a couple. But they show you that just because you have more tools in your toolbox doesn't mean that you can't get the job done without those tools, right? So they show you just maybe have to work a little harder or hit the trail or the obstacles a little wiser than if you just have all the goodies in your...
And while you're there, do you get put in one Bronco and that's it? That's the Bronco you're in for the day?
Yeah.
Or do you swap between different trims?
No, you get your Bronco for the day.
Okay, so were you in a Black Diamond then?
I was in a Badlands non-Sasquatch, so I got to see that difference of like the 1.5 inch lift difference. I was in a Badlands still, non-Sass, had some BF Goodwrenches on it, and I had Sasquatches both on the front and back of me. So we were able to experience some of those obstacles, and this is going to be a great segue talking about the underside, where you are actually hearing rocks hit the underside with that 1.5 inch of clearance difference. And they'd make sure you knew that, hey, that the vehicle in front of you has a little bit more clearance, so you're going to have to approach this a little bit different. You're going to have to be a little more cautious going over this rock, slowing your travel down, going off of that rock, stuff like that. So they do a good job of being observant of that stuff and not trying to bash these vehicles at the same time. So ultimately, I highly recommend it, especially if you've never been off-road before. It's going to truly make you experience, or have an appreciation, I should say, of what the vehicle you're driving on a daily basis can do. And not to mention, it's just a really fun day. I would recommend going with a family member, going with a wife, a spouse,
and do you have to pay extra
a child. Yeah, you do, which that's kind of the booger, right? So
how much is it?
It's not free. I went in. There's kind of a perk here, so I went in thinking it was going to be free. So I went to go book it, and knowing that my wife costed some money, I think she was like $395 or something like that.
Okay.
So it was a good chunk,
kind of expensive,
but totally worth it. I will say that.
You're getting a full day, 2 meals.
Yeah, we both got some Yetis. You know, we both got a bunch of stickers and stuff like that.
Oh, that was free?
That was free,
yes.
Yes.
That shirt free?
The shirt was not free.
Okay.
No, that's where the free stuff ended. Well, nothing was free because we paid $395, which probably covered both of us. But anyways, they also took like a $150 like reservation fee, which that's the one that I was like, all right, these guys are a bunch of... But the day after, I got refunded that back. Okay. So I wasn't even expecting to get it refunded back. It was almost a nice little treat. Like, hey, my day was even that much better.
My guess is they'll probably take it from you if you don't show up, though.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Because it was a full class.
Yeah.
Their whole facility was full, and they said it's full all the time. I think they said at that San Antonio location, which was the first location, there had been over 10,000 people through there, and Austin brought it up something at the beginning of the video. This is only for Bronco owners as of now, meaning you have to have that Bronco, or you have to have that order that is in place that they can validate your VIN. I'm assuming eventually, once that demand dies down, they will open it up to the public for a fee.
I don't know why you'd want to close down that awesome facility.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And the 4 different facilities, mind you. So stay tuned for our next experience taking advantage of the wild tracks. But that we can't stop there. Let's talk about the underside real quick, right? So there are those differences that you cover out on the trails of the Off-Roadeo that are pretty neat, where you get to see the sway bars in action. You get to see the rear locking differential in action. You can also see the like the rear tow hitch, where you can hook up your recovery straps, which they go through a kind of a really brief beginner, like these are your straps that you need, this is how you would do it, but that's kind of where it ends.
Yeah.
Very basic stuff. I don't know that you're even going to learn much. It was just like, hey, we have to waste 15 minutes. Let's get some straps out and show you how to hook it up. But anyways, it can show you the value of that rear tow package that this Big Bend has, this Wild Track does not. And what's interesting is I was hoping that you could just bolt on that 2-inch receiver, which you can, but it's definitely not pre-wired. If you wanted to hook up a trailer in the future, you'd have to figure out that wiring. That's not back there waiting for you, but you can very easily just bolt on a receiver. The holes are in place.
Sweet.
So that part is cool.
Yeah.
The biggest thing that took me off guard, I'm gonna get to this right away, is the fact that this Big Bend actually has a steel plate underneath the gas tank, which in the 2-door, that gas tank is 16.9 gallons. And the 4-door, you get 4 more gallons of fuel, but this $64,000, $20,000 more Bronco does not have any protection on the gas tank at all.
Kind of weird. That's a bit strange.
It is a bit strange. I do know that the under protection, or the bash plates Ford likes to call them, is still an option at the $64,000 price point. You do get the steel bumper up front, the first initial bash plate,
Yep.
and then like directly under the motor is steel as well.
Yep.
But everything beyond that, there's nothing, right? What's cool about the lower trim compared to the bigger trim is there's a lot of samey-samings going on.
Yeah, like a lot.
Yeah, I've read in the past that the earlier model years, like 2021, in lower trims, may not have had some weldments or some connection points. For example, we got the Haas 3.0, which also has the sway bar in the rear, which it really adds to the stability. It truly does, as far as this feeling like a luxury car. Make sure you check out our video coming in the future where we unpack this $64,000 Bronco and we compare it to our 2021 Land Rover Defender.
Yep.
Can the Bronco actually stack up against the luxury Land Rover Defender?
Let's find out.
Yeah, let's find out in that video, right? So there's a lot of things that are similar, but there's no denying that everything about the Wildtrak just looks cooler underneath. You got those Fox bypass shocks, which are quite remarkable when you're talking about daily driving. And there's obviously a lot of oomph that's put into that out on the trails.
Now, something that is interesting is both of these vehicles have been introduced to winter, but this here Big Bend was around for the longer majority of winter.
Yeah.
And I'm very impressed, for it only being around 1 year now, how much rust is already starting on the underside of this thing.
Disheartening.
It is kind of disheartening. Like, it's insane, the amount of rust that is starting on the bottom of this thing. I'm kind of blown away and shocked by it.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. There's rust that's even starting on areas that maybe weren't nicked by rocks or road debris.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is like kind of hidden welds. The paint protection is gone.
Yep.
And there's some exposed rust there. So imagine if you're hitting that with some rocks. Yeah, you may not have salt in those states, but boy, I'm a little disheartened by the protection.
Literally
that's underneath.
every single bolt on the underside of this thing is just completely rusted. It's crazy.
Can't get away from old salt.
Sure can't.
But finishing up talking about the underside of these, we have the exact same drivetrain, so you can see you got that 10-speed automatic, you got that V6 that's got the turbo over on the passenger side. Pretty cool to see everything underneath here. It's pretty basic, but we definitely have some more goodies, some more tools in the toolbox with our electronic front and rear locking differential on the Wildtrak, and just a little more standard, but the same on the two-door.
Well, and I think that pretty much wraps up today's video on the Bronco Off-Road Rodeo, as well as talking about the undersides of these two things and how they stack up. So thank you guys so much. And if you guys are curious about more of our Bronco videos, be sure to check out our Ford Bronco playlist here on Performance on Wheels. Look forward to seeing you guys next time.